Hi, Peter Hammill. This is Nicholas Nedelkopoulos, Melbourne, Australia.
Hi, Nicholas.
Are you in Wiltshire?
I'm actually in Bath, which is kind of Wiltshire. So yeah, I'm over here at the moment, but about to go into no time zone for a bit, and then I'll be there.
Right. Bath is where a lot of your the last 10 years of recording's been mixed, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I moved down here, or round about here, about 17, 18 years or so ago. It's not far from London, and it's, kind of better quality of life, basically.
Right. What's the, there's a lot of greenery there? What's the environment
There
like?
is, yeah. It's quite a small city. It's an old city, a Roman city originally, and a lot of green outside. You can see the green from anywhere in the city, and it's got a good cultural life, and it's a civilized place to live, basically.
Terrific. And has it affected the music very much?
I don't think so, really. Music always, whether it's writing or recording or playing live, music always happens kind of within four walls, basically. And I guess you kind of bring in whatever calm or manic state you're in into those walls. But then when you get down into the work, it's what's in the head rather than what's outside that's important, I think.
And your music over the last, since 1968, 69, I think your first album with Van de Graaff Generator.
Yeah.
That was the music. One would say it goes from poetically moody, gentle to neurotic and aggressive.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I stick my hand up, yeah.
And so you have the full range of human moods and feelings.
Well, I do my best to stick all the stuff that's interesting into the music and the songs, because I reckon, obviously it's a form that can take all of those things.
And that very first album was you were working as a solo album, and then became a Van de Graaff Generator album. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the very first one.
Now, since then, you've recorded over 30 albums, over 20 on your own, as Peter Hammill, and must have been about 10 as Van de Graaff. Counting them through, you must have over 30-something albums now.
It may be even more than that, actually, yeah.
Yes, and when you count, there seems to be quite a few collections of past songs on albums coming out recently, best ofs and things like that. I think there's about 3 or 4 now. We don't hear much of you in Australia, and we don't know much about you.
That's because I've never been before, partly.
Yes, but there are some loyal fans of yours here.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the recent album we've got here was released last year. It's called X My Heart.
Yeah.
Is that the most recent album?
That's the most recent actual solo one, apart from the one I've just finished as of 2 days ago, which will be out in September or so, I guess.
Is that
there has been a live album since then.
The live one.
Which I did with Guy Evans, which is kind of not really a solo project, but a bit more of an improvisational, and some songs, lots of different players on that.
Well, I was going to ask you about Guy Evans and that album. So the live one and that one is the same album, right?
That's the live one is that, which is a double album from a concert we did back in November in London, which was interesting. I mean, it was originally a project of Guy and myself, basically doing improvisational stuff, and then we got other players in as well for the fun, including Banton and Jackson from Van de Graaff. So we actually had, for the one and only time, I mean, I have to say, Van de Graaff have no intentions of reforming, because I have a kind of horror of people in their late 40s putting on the flares and pretending to be 19 again. But we did get together and actually play one tune live.
Well, those rumours are quite heavy here in Melbourne.
The what?
The Van de Graaff Generator reforming.
Yep.
We were expecting a tour here next year.
Next year?
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint, but I suspect that's not going to happen.
Right.
But the musicians involved, we all still play together, and happily, as I say, partly because I think we did break up when we did, we remain friends and sometimes colleagues. Obviously, David Jackson I've played with probably the most of all of the the other three, taking those three as the main classic Van der Graaf period: Hugh Banton, Guy Evans, and David Jackson. David is me in my kind of semi-current group, which is not desperately current, but every so often, if there's a full group, I play in a quartet with him. Guy I continue to work with for a long time, and then in fact Banton plays on a couple of tracks on the next one as well. So, you know, we remain human beings to each other, which is something of a triumph when you've started in a band at 19.
Yes. You've got a solo album coming out at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you got a title for that yet?
No, I haven't got a title, and I'm kind of still thinking about the order and whether all the songs that I've done go on it and all of those sorts of things. It's a funny process when you've actually finished all of the mixing of stuff. I mean, I say it's a funny process. This is partly because, you know, over the years I've got all of the responsibility myself, so I decide what the album is rather than having to submit it to anybody, any record company and what have you. But having done all of the work, you know, there's a period of just thinking about it for a bit and seeing what is exactly what. So the title, I've got a couple in mind, but I'm loath to reveal them in case I decide they're supremely naff and I'm not going to use them. And we'll just have to wait and see what exactly it really comes out as.
Right. There's a track on Next My Heart, A Better Time. There's two versions of that on there. And it's quite a positive song.
There are. I mean, I'm quite often known as being very negative and negative, depressed, neurotic, as you said earlier. But there are positive songs around here. I mean, in fact, for myself, in any case, the act of making music, writing songs, is kind of a positive thing, even if you're dealing with more down stuff. You know, the fact that you're attempting something about it means that at least you're confronting it and doing something positive. In fact, A Better Time it's less positive than it sounds in a way. It's kind of an acceptance song to a certain extent, that, you know, whatever you're feeling, you know, that is the best time that you're going to be alive. So it cuts both ways, really. A better time.
Right. There's a rumour going around that there's a biography coming out on you.
It hasn't reached my ears yet. There's always the continuing possibility of the lyrics coming out, because a number of years ago there were two books which contained lyrics and short stories, and by now, of course, there are many more lyrics, which, you know, although, you know, I mean, clearly they are lyrics rather than poems. You know, it remains an interesting idea to have them there in some kind of book form. But I don't know anything about a biography. If there is going to be one, nobody's come to interview me yet.
Right. Those books were Killers, Angels, Refugees, Mirrors, Dreams, and Miracles.
And Miracles, yeah.
There's another rumour going around that there's an English-Greek book comprising 90 songs.
That is a correct rumour. It doesn't actually exist yet because, well, it's still a question of deciding which 90 songs, apart from anything else, and which it's going to be possible to translate into Greek. You know, there is always this problem with translation that, you know, some ideas, because they're word plays, won't actually translate properly into another language. But that is likely to happen, well, later this year. I have various faxes dotted around the place, and it's one of the other things I've got to apply my head to. Not that I'm doing the Greek translation, I stress, but I will have a hand in deciding which 90 songs there'll be.
Will it be in modern Greek?
It'll be in modern Greek. Oh, yeah.
I see. It's especially.
Although that is an interesting concept, actually. Should there be a Hammill Greek translation, it should be into antique Greek.
Because my background's Greek.
All right.
So I'm very interested in that part of things. Why Greek?
Why Greek? Well, because there's quite a large audience in Greece, actually, and the last time I was over there, there's a few guys who just started or continued a publishing company who do a sort of kind of a modern art magazine. It's called Oxy, and it involves lots of it's quite modern, different typefaces, covering really all of the arts, literature, music, visual arts, and so on. And the people who run this were very keen to do a book of translations. They've in association with another publishing house, they're putting out various fundamentally literary things that haven't, for one reason or another, haven't been translated into Greek and done. And so they were keen to do this. And good chaps, good layout, very sensible and sensitive approach. So it seems feasible.
Yes, you've had a big following in Italy as well.
Italy, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And Germany would be one too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's. The peak anywhere was Van der Graaf in Italy in the early 70s, which was, that was kind of major stuff, riots and tear gas and all of that sort of thing. And since then, there's a substantial audience in Germany, as in Holland. France has gone up and down. I think generally it's true to say that wherever people either really get into the stuff that I do or that Van der Graaf did, or they loathe it. And there's, if there is an audience, then it's a strong one and kind of sticks with me through the various travails that I go through. It's also, I have to say as well, it's not an uncritical audience. There's usually something that any member of that audience absolutely hates that I do, or some particular style they hate. But thankfully, I guess they know that I'm doing it as honestly as I can, and that if they didn't like that last thing, the next one is just around the corner.
Yes. There's a track I like, The Great European Department Store,
Yeah.
from The Noise, and Where the Mouth Is. Can you tell me a bit about the Great European Department Store?
About the Great European Department Store?
Yes.
It's a lot of people actually in Europe took it as being one of these dumb British anti-European songs, which is in fact quite the reverse of my intention. So I evidently failed to a certain extent there. Obviously, I've spent a lot of my life travelling around through various cultures, and it's one of the privileges of the job that you get the chance to go through various cultures and find out something or other about them in quite a fast way, because you have the opportunity to work in the culture and to talk to people, to ask questions and so on, that you don't necessarily do if you're just travelling. And one of the things that's gradually disturbed me over the last years has been the uniformity of culture, particularly in terms of shopping, where now you can go almost anywhere on the planet, I guess, and buy South American craft goods or here body. I mean, I'll find out about the Australian shopping experience doubtless in a few days, but certainly across Europe, if you're in the middle of a city, you wouldn't necessarily know what country you were in at all, because the shops are all the same and they're all selling the same stuff. And so that was the root of a Great European Department Store, that in fact everything was just coming down to a uniformity rather than a retention of diversity, which, as I say, some people took as being a great British anti-European attitude, but in fact, I regard myself as a European first, and European first, British second, English third. So that was the root of it. I want Europe to go forward, and it's the only way that Europe can survive. But I don't want to go forward without losing cultural identity, as opposed to monetary identity. That doesn't matter particularly at all. That's just the stuff. But so that's the root of the song.
Right. It also leads me to another song from In a Foreign Town, Sci Finance.
Oh, right, yeah. In fact, that was on Vital as well. It's Sci Finance Revisited. Yeah, it's another thing, evidently, that's bugged me and that goes on under our feet. It's some way back, of course, in the foreign town, but even then I was getting concerned about simply it's partly to do with the speed with which things happen, and particularly in financial markets, that these days the economies of countries and of the world is is kind of happening and controlled effectively by numbers zipping around, but the numbers never sleep. You know, Tokyo closes, London opens, and so on and so forth. And it's a kind of a life that's going on the planet, down the phone lines, that's not really under anybody's control at all. So I made Sci Finances as a little kind of gesture, a sci-fi story about it. You know, in that there is not as much control as we're led to believe about finance and economics these days, I guess.
So what are your have you got strong feelings about the change of government there?
I'm delighted. I'm delighted. You wouldn't believe the feeling, you know, on May the 2nd. I mean, in fact, even lifelong Tory voters, everybody got up on May the 2nd, and there was a real feeling of positivity and about the streets everywhere. You know, kind of, gosh, now maybe we've got a chance of being a modern country.
We were quite surprised to hear, actually. We were quite comforted by the fact.
You were surprised that it happened?
Yes, well, it just didn't happen for so long.
Exactly, it didn't happen for so long, and this was kind of, if it hadn't happened, I think that's also why there's feeling such relief. If it hadn't happened this time, then we were just doomed. You know, but now, you know, we got a chance now.
Do you still have your Cora? Your 12-string?
Cora, yeah. It's a tad broken, and I think to be honest, I think I got the song out of it that was in there for me. But no, I still have it.
You played that on the Mask track.
A Ritual Mask, yeah.
Yes. Did you enjoy that album as a whole album? Do you think
the WOMAD one?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's almost a historical artifact these days, because it was kind of the first thing that was making an effort in that direction. I have my reservations about the not so much about the WOMAD people. They're definitely in the right place, and they do make a real good effort. But I do have my reservations about the whole categorization of world music. Nothing against the music itself, obviously, because music is music, and you can only do it well or badly depending on whether your heart and soul is in it. But the thing that worries me is that you get a culture that's kind of maybe been going for 1,000 years, and then that is apparently embodied on one CD that comes out that everybody gets, and so on. That's always struck me as a bit funny. And of course, a Ritual Mask in a way is talking about this cultural appropriation itself. So I mean, that in itself, the fact that the WOMAD people were happy with that going on as a kind of word of caution around the thing at an early stage is, you know, it's positive. Have played it live as well, actually. Only once, I think. I played it live with Gabriel.
Right.
At the very first WOMAD performance.
Now you played
the very first festival.
You've played with a few people over the years on a few albums, like Robert Fripp.
Yeah.
And he'd be a contemporary of yours, obviously.
Absolutely. Well, I guess to a certain extent, I regard Robert as my one surviving peer, really, because of all of the other people who started at the more or less the same time as us. I mean, he was going a couple of years earlier, but the people are either enormously successful megastars these days, or they've packed up. And there aren't many people who are neither megastars nor have packed up. Sometimes they're enormous megastars and they've packed up simultaneously, I have to say. But there aren't many people like Robert and I who are still around and I guess still fired up by it without necessarily being household names. So he remains a good friend. Well, but actually Gabriel remains a good friend as well.
Well, I guess this is one of the major things that sets you both a special in the rock and roll scene.
What, Robert and I?
Yes, we're generally people who don't have hit records are just no longer there.
Yeah.
And you've never had a hit record.
Absolutely not. Hardly had any singles even.
But what was it, that album back? There was one that was destined to be a hit, Nadia's Big Chance.
Yeah, right.
And we all thought that was going to be a big hit, and a single from that. That didn't
But
happen.
of course, I think with Nadir, that came out, and then immediately it actually came out to terrible reviews, which is quite interesting retrospectively. But then immediately afterwards, Vandergraaf was reforming, and so I mean, it was kind of a holiday for me to do Nadir. Well, it was a holiday, and B, it was recorded immediately before we started the Vandergraaf rehearsal, so it was sort of an occasion for all of us to play something like that before we got back into the Vandergraaf stuff.
Oh, I've got to ask you, there was another room about Chris Judd Smith. Did you work on Curly's Airship?
He is indeed working on Curly's Airships. He's working on it, and I've sung on it. John Ellis is playing loads of guitar on it. Banton is playing organ. Apart from me singing, he's got Arthur Brown.
Arthur Brown?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
And I think he's got is it Paul from? He's got various other singers, and it's coming on actually. I think it'll be probably done by the end of the year because it takes a long time. They were all down here about a month or so ago because there was a small arts program doing a profile on it, which in fact will be shown while I'm over there. But yeah, it's interesting stuff, and as always with Judge, it's well thought out and quite idiosyncratic at the same time.
Yeah, he puts out albums now, doesn't he? Still, there's been quite a
Sorry?
few. He's had a few albums out recently.
He has indeed, yeah. And he's a good writer. I mean, I count my luck that I've managed to, I mean, in a way, one makes one's own luck by force of will and thought and so on, but I've had the luck to do this continuously and make loads of albums. He, I think, has not had his share of luck, really. He's because he is a good writer. Well, I've recorded a number of his songs, and he's had various things that he's done, particularly in the area of musicals. He obviously wrote the libretto of The Fall of the House of Usher, which was our opera. And yeah, he's a good chap, and in a way, the flame still burns for him as well, obviously, because he's still keen on doing it, having had innumerable setbacks and rebuffs, but he still carries on, so it's positive.
That album, The Fall and House of Usher, that was...
Yeah.
Did you enjoy working on that?
Well, there's a degree of yes and no, because it was done over about 18 years. By the end, I spent, I think, about a year, 18 months in the final process of doing it. It was very enjoyable, very instructive as well. I mean, I have to say that the process of making any album is both kind of a purpose in itself, but from my point of view, there's also got to be some kind of learning curve involved as well. Otherwise, I'm just kind of doing stuff that I know, and that's not really what I try to do. I want to find something new out myself as well. And I found out loads and loads in the course of doing Usher. Obviously, it's some years back now. It's about nearly 7 years since I finished working on it, even more than that even. It's actually a project that might well, hopefully will resurface again at some point in the future, because it was obviously designed as a performance piece rather than just a recording, but in the end, so far it's only materialised as recording. So
that's right.
It's interesting stuff, yeah.
Yes, and that very first album has just been released on CD over the past year. The Aerosol
That's right, Aerosol Machine, finally, yeah.
Looks terrific on CD, the cover.
Yeah.
It works well. Did you go through any, how do I put it, there was a lot of sort of stress over the vinyl going out and CDs coming in.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of rock and roll stars didn't like it, and even up to this day, the debate on whether CDs or vinyl, as far as quality of sound. Do you have any strong...
Well, I don't really have a problem with it, to be honest. I mean, obviously the stuff that was recorded in the 60s and 70s, it sounds, well, it doesn't sound strange. It sounds like as it was recorded, to be honest. But it was recorded with the prospect of it going onto vinyl as a factor, not necessarily a limiting factor or what have you. So that, for instance, you get, unless it's actually remixed and remastered, you get cymbals akimbo, because you know that the cymbals aren't going to get there onto vinyl, and you get not as much bass because the bass is going to zip madly. So, but when CD first came in, Virgin, who by their own charisma, asked me to get involved in choosing compilation of Vandergraaf stuff, and at that time I thought, well, this is going to be the only CD, or the only 2 CDs. I persuaded them to do 2. And when it finally came back, I was amazed, because it did sound, as I remembered hearing things in the control room years ago, which frankly vinyl doesn't. And even though I've got, or had still, tapes, it's never quite the same. So I think with CD, basically, you get what you do. I appreciate the kind of the argument about vinyl being warmer and so on, but I think it's down to technical stuff rather than CD itself. It's down to compression and just the way that vinyl works. I don't have a problem with it, particularly these days. I don't, because I record here in the studio. It goes onto ADATs digitally, which is as I record it. I can mess it around if I want to, but it goes and comes back as I record it. I can do any number of generational jumps and it still sounds about the same. And then now I can actually cut the CDs here, so that when effectively I'm now in a position where if I sing into the microphone in my studio, the next time that it's going to get translated out of digits is somebody's CD player, which I find quite exciting, actually, to be honest. Hello?
Hello, yes. Yes. What are you expecting to see in Australia? Have you got any...
I'm trying not to have too many preconceptions, to be honest. It's if you go anywhere with preconceptions, then it's a question of confounding them or living up to them and so on. So I'm trying to remain pretty open. I mean, all of the friends of mine who've ever been there have been massively enthusiastic and overwhelmingly positive about the entire experience. So I'm hoping that I have the same kind of thing. I am aware that there are this small but dedicated bunch of diehards down there, and I'm particularly looking forward to doing the live playing thing, because it is different, and obviously it's been an essential part of the work over these nearly 30 years, and I'm looking forward to it immensely.
So you'll be doing cross-section of songs over that period?
I'll be doing a load of cross-section of songs. I've been sitting down and I've been learning a couple of old ones even. I don't know exactly what I'll play, because I never know what I'm going to play until usually an hour or so before, but with any tour, in fact, I kind of decide on what the list of songs from which I'll draw will be, and then just and then do the 15, 16, 17 on a given night. So don't do the same sets, because then I don't get bored along with everybody else. But I reckon at the moment I've got about 50 or 60 that I'm going to choose from.
And you'll be playing at the Continental Hotel
in
Melbourne, 2 concerts, and 2 concerts in Sydney.
That's right.
Right. And will you be staying in Australia for very long?
I can only stay for basically for the concerts and the gap in between. I would very much like to stay longer, but I don't think my family would be terribly pleased. They're not terribly pleased not to be going themselves, to tell you the honest truth. But school is still going on over here, so unfortunately, the family had to stay behind.
Peter, I'll just jump in for a sec and say hello.
Hi.
And really looking forward to the concerts later this week down at the Continental Cafe. It's not the hotel, as Nick said. The Continental Hotel's down in Sorrento. But listen, I've got to tell you a little bit about Nick. He's one of our foremost visual artists here in Australia.
Right.
And he's both known for his printmaking and his paintings. And he does these magical little naughty works, I suppose is the best way to describe them. They're quite sexual and quite political. So you are talking with one of Australia's best visual artists.
Oh, really? Hello?
You must get out to his studio while you're here.
Well, if I get the chance, I would very much like to, yeah. Hello?
Hello, this is Nicholas. I'm a bit embarrassed now.
And you're actually in Melbourne, yeah?
Hey, sorry? Yes, I'm in Melbourne. In Melbourne.
Right.
So it'd be good to meet up with you sometime.
Well, I
If
certainly hope
there's
so
any
while I'm
time.
there.
Yeah. Well, I better let you go. I'll put you on
Okay.
Roger. I think our
I shall go back to sorting out this new album, because I've got to get it done today, since I leave tomorrow and so on. It sounds...
What's it called?
Hey?
What's it called?
I don't know what it's called yet.
What label?
Oh, the label is called Phi,
Fire.
which is my label. It's, I have this complete control element these days.
Oh,
So
right.
yeah, I'll be doing that, and then, fantastical as it may seem, in a matter of hours, I'll be down there.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, well, I look forward to meeting you when I'm there. Okay?
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Peter? Hello?
Right.
How'd that go, Nicky?
All right, I think.
Okay, good. So did you leave a bit of space for